Want to talk about is our comfort zone and how we are limited by our comfort zone and how we might broaden the comfort zone to extend over and through everything that we do, every moment that we're in, that be a part of our comfort zone. The spiritual journey is one of constant transformation. In order to grow, you must give up the struggle to remain the same and learn to embrace change at all times. One of the most important areas requiring change is how we solve our personal problems. Real transformation begins when you embrace your problems as agents for growth. In order to understand how this process works, let's examine the following situation. Imagine that you have a thorn in your arm that directly touches a nerve. When the thorn is touched, it's very painful. Because it hurts so much, the thorn is a serious problem. It's difficult to sleep because you roll over on it. It's hard to get close to people because they might touch it. It makes your daily life very difficult. You can't even go for a walk in the woods because you might brush the thorn against the branches. This thorn is a constant source of disturbance, and to solve the problem, you only have two choices. The first choice is to look at your situation and decide that since it's so disturbing when things touch the thorn, you need to make sure that nothing touches it. The second choice is to decide that since it's so disturbing when things touch the thorn, you need to take it out. Believe it or not, the effects of the choice you make will determine the course of the rest of your life. This is one of the core level structural decisions that lay the foundation for your future. Let's begin with the first choice and explore how it will affect your life. If you decide you have to keep things from touching the thorn, then that becomes the work of a lifetime. If you want to go for a walk in the woods, you'll have to thin out the branches to make sure you don't brush against them. Since you often roll over and touch the thorn when you sleep, you'll have to find a solution for that as well. Perhaps you could design an apparatus that acts as a protective device. If you really put a lot of energy into it and your solution seemed to work, you would think that you had solved your problem. You'd say, I can sleep now. And guess what? I got to go on TV and give a testimonial. Anybody who has the thorn problem can get my protective device, and I even get paid royalties. So now you got a whole life built around this thorn, and you're proud of it. You keep the woods thinned out and you wear the apparatus to bed at night, but now you have a new problem. You fell in love. This is a problem because in your situation, it's hard to even hug. Nobody can touch you because they might touch the thorn. So you design another kind of device that allows closeness amongst people without actually touching. Eventually, you decide you want total mobility without having to worry about the thorn anymore. So you make a full-time device that doesn't have to be unstrapped at night or changed over for hugging and other daily activities. But it's heavy. So you put wheels on it, control it with hydraulics, and install collision sensors. It's actually quite an impressive device. Of course, you had to change the doors in the house so that the protective apparatus could get through, but at least now you can live your life. You can go to work, go to sleep, and get close to people. So you announce to everyone, I have solved my problem. I am a free being. I can go anywhere I want. I can do anything I want. This thorn used to run my life. Now it doesn't run anything. The truth is, the thorn completely runs your entire life. It affects all your decisions, including where you go, whom you're comfortable with, and who's comfortable with you. It determines where you're allowed to work, what house you can live in, and what kind of bed you can sleep on at night. When it's all said and done, that thorn is running every aspect of your life. It turns out that the life of protecting yourself from your problem becomes a perfect reflection of the problem itself. You didn't solve anything. If you don't solve the root cause of the problem, but instead attempt to protect yourself from the problem, it ends up running your life. You end up so psychologically fixated on the problem that you can't see the forest for the trees. You actually feel that because you've minimized the pain of the problem, you've solved the problem. But it is not solved. All you did was devote your life to avoiding it. It is now the center of your universe. It's all there is. Okay, follow on. It's not much more. In order to apply the analogy of the thorn to your whole life, we will use loneliness as an example. Let's say you have a very deep sense of inner loneliness. It's so deep that you have trouble sleeping at night, and during the day it makes you very sensitive. You're susceptible to feeling sharp pangs in your heart that cause quite a disturbance. You have trouble staying focused on your job, and you have trouble with everyday interactions. What's more, when you're very lonely, it's often painfully difficult to get close to people. You see, loneliness is just like the thorn. It causes pain and disturbance in all aspects of your life. But in the case of the human heart, we have more than one thorn. We have sensitivities about loneliness, about rejection, about our physical appearance, and about our mental prowess. We are walking around with lots of thorns touching right against the most sensitive part of our hearts. At any moment, something can touch them and cause pain inside. So can you feel that? Can you feel that that is what happens, right? We have a thorn, and it's a fear. It's a fear of being, lonely. It's a fear of that other people will reject me. It's a fear of being unlovable. All of these things, all of these thorns, we've got them in there, right? And so what happens is we wind up creating an existence to avoid this fear. And then what happens? What happens every single time? We create the thing we were afraid of. In our attempt to avoid it, we literally create the thing, and then we get to it and we go, oh, that thing, there it is, that fear I had, and there it is, I just created it. So, we've got the thorn. What are we going to do about it? What do we do with the thorn? How do we get rid of the thorn? So, the first point that I think is super important to recognize is the quote on the cover of your bulletin. And that is that real transformation begins when you embrace your problems as agents for growth. When we begin to reframe our problem, and it's no longer a problem, it's the thing that's here to help me grow. It's the thing that's here to help me get to the next place in my journey, my next place in consciousness, my next place in my joyful life. 2, if you don't solve the root cause of a problem, but instead protect yourself from the problem, it ends up running your life. It defines your comfort zone. And that's what happens. We literally avoid this. One of the reasons that I really love the Enneagram, if you're familiar with the Enneagram, raise your hand. Anybody? Oh, good. Look at us. We're so evolved. Okay, so the Enneagram is an amazing, amazing tool to help you come to understand yourself more, right? So this is the key. It's know thyself. As we begin to know thyself, that's when the beauty begins. That's when we begin to understand that we are the gold. We are the golden Buddha, right? The golden Buddha that's covered by the mud and the muck. And as we begin to let those pieces of mud fall from us, we begin to see the truth of our beauty. And so the Enneagram is one of those tools that you can look at, and it really doesn't pigeonhole the way that you might think other personality profiles might. It is very, it's a spectrum, and it talks about, okay, so if I am a type 5, which I believe I am most days, some days I get confused and think I'm a 2, but I think that's because I'm a 5-2-9 in my triad. Don't get confused, it's very confusing. So, okay, and I also am a 5 with a 4 wing. Don't get lost, right? Okay, so here's the deal. So if I am a 5, my core fear, right, one of my core fears is that I will be overwhelmed by life, that I am not enough for life, that I don't have what it takes to do this thing called life. And so a type 5, the way that a type 5 begins to feel comfortable is when they find a niche, when they find something that they can be an expert in. And then I'm able to go out into the world and I feel like I'm competent and I can do things because now I found the niche and now I can have that, and that can be my security blanket, right? Okay, so here's the deal. So when I begin to understand what my core fear is, then I can look and go, oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing that thing. I'm not going to lunch because I'm afraid that that's too many activities and I don't have enough to make sure that I can do lunch and do all the other stuff I have on my calendar. Because that's what 5s do. 5s will minimize their needs so that they make sure that they have enough to accomplish life. So then I become very on purpose in that. Oh my gosh, am I going to tell you the story? Am I going to tell the story? I gotta tell the story. Okay, here's the thing. Okay, it's not about him. No, it's a good story. Okay, so this is what happened. So as a type 5, one of the things that happens is that I tend to go into myself. I know you guys see me and I'm talking and I'm up here, but then I go home and I go in. I go inward, right? So I tend to think, there are just so many amazing and lovely people in my life that are inviting me to create relationships and friendships with them, and I get scared because I feel like I can't commit to this. I can't show up for you. I have too much on my plate. I can't This is what happens. So I recognize that that's a fear, right? So I don't want that to create my experience. So when I recognize that I have the fear, I act opposite, right? Like when I would normally go, no, I can't do that. I'm trying to then do that. So I did that. I went to lunch with my beautiful friend Heather last week. And then there's another thing too. Oh, I did something else that was friendly. And I don't know what it was.
I went to lunch with me.
Coffee. Somebody needed my help, and my beautiful mother-in-law came and took the boys so that I could go and have coffee with a friend that was having a hard time. So that's 2 things in like the span of 7 days. And so then I got this message a few weeks ago, and it's from someone that I thought was from here. So I'm communicating with a person that I think is a certain person that is here, that is a part of our community. And this person says, let's meet and go, let's meet about 5 o'clock. And I'm thinking, no, I really can't do that. And this would be a nut. I have all the fears that are going in my head. And then I went, no, acting opposite, recognizing whatever. So I took, so I went, right? I went and I got there and I'm waiting because she's running late. And the person walks in the door. And it's not the person. It's not the person I thought it was. Not even close to the person I thought it was. In fact, I don't know who this person is. I know that I've seen this person before, but I don't know where. Yeah. So much fun. Thank you, universe. Thank you. I'm trying to step out, and this is what I get. So I spend the first 30 minutes trying to figure out who this is and how I got here. So anyway, it ended up being lovely, but whatever. Okay, so that was my, yeah. Okay, so back on track. That's what I did. That's what I did. So act opposite, and then you guys tell your story next week, and we'll see what happens. Maybe you meet strangers too. We don't know. 3, when you protect yourself from feeling a problem, you use people, places, and things as protective shields. Okay, so this is huge. This is huge. Because, here's why. First of all, most of the time when we're protecting ourselves from the thorn, we don't even know that we're doing it. Because it's just what we've always done. So we don't even recognize it, right? So we've got this thing going on. We're creating structures. We're creating things so that we can avoid this thorn. And we don't know we're doing it. Here's what happens then. There is a part of us, and Eckhart Tolle calls it the ego, and I think that that's an apt description. And the ego is simply the thing that wants to attach to other things in order to have an identity, right? And it is clever, right? So it's trying to protect us. The ego is just trying to protect us from the thorns, right? So in the effort to protect us from the thorns, the ego will go, well, that person can make you feel less lonely because they have a lot more friends than you do. So you go over to that person, and you start talking to that person. And now you've created a relationship. Now wait. Part of your motivation for being there, talking to that person, is not clear, right? It's not just open, like, hi, how are you? Who are you? Let's see how we can show up for each other. And it doesn't make you bad that we're doing this because we do it. This is what we do. Even when we don't say it, the other person feels that. There is an energy to that. There is an energy to that we know. And we can't, and have you ever been talking to someone and you can't quite place it, but you think something's just off. Something's just not quite right. And oftentimes it's because there are ulterior motives that oftentimes that person's not even aware of, right? So this is part of why it becomes important to decide that we don't want to live from a place of our thorns, not just for us, but for other people, for the people in our lives, for the people that we love and interact with. It's how we show up in a different way. You have the ability, here's the good news. You have the ability to remove your inner thorns. It takes no effort. It's all about watching, noticing without judging, or attempts to stop the feeling. Here's what I want to say. First of all, is it easy? Yes. And oftentimes, it's the hardest thing we do. So it's a paradox, right? It is very simple because there's a simple method, but it it feels very difficult to do. And here's what happens on our journey. As we begin to be committed to the highest good, as we begin to be committed to finding our thorns and removing them, then the universe moves people into our experience that can help us do that, right? A therapist that's great to talk to, a healer that helps us, a book that we really need to read because it's got our next thing, our next knowing in it, right? A sign on the highway that tells us what we need to know. This is what happens. So if we have the commitment, then the universe is going to show up and give us the things that we need, point us toward those things. Okay, that said, yes, it's really easy, and this is how it's easy. So, the thorn comes up, the button gets pushed, right? So we notice that we got a button. That's the first thing. The first thing that happens typically when someone pushes our buttons is we go, oh, you did that to me. You feel the button, you go, oh, you know? And no, the first thing to do is to notice that. Oh my gosh, I'm going you, and I should be going, oh, I got a button. Oh, there's a button. What is that? What is that? And become curious, right? So become curious. That is a receptive space. That is a space in which answers can arise because we haven't decided. We're opening up. Oh, what is that? There it is, right? And then we begin to thank our button pushers, right? Our spouses. We can be thankful for that. Okay, so here's the deal. So the button gets pushed, button's pushed. There it is. Notice it. Notice the disturbance, and you'll get better and better about it. Here's the thing. That awareness, that's you. So as you begin to be aware, you're actually being more yourself. And that awareness grows over time. So we do not have to do anything. And there's going to be something in you that's like, oh, what do I do? Oh, I feel the button. Oh, what do we do? Oh, where's the book? Ah, no. Breathe. Right? Breathe. There's the button. Okay. There it is. Because I love the analogy of a thorn, and I like to think of it as a splinter because they work themselves out. They can work themselves out, right? So the reality is that awareness that comes in when you decide to just look, that awareness is you. And that awareness is getting bigger every time you go, oh, there's the disturbance, because you're disassociating. You're no longer caught in the movie, right? You're not caught in the disturbance. When you're watching a movie, you forget that you're there, right? You forget you're there, and then you go, oh, I'm in a movie. And so there's space around it. Oh, I'm just watching. It's not me. Can you feel that? Okay, good. 5, becoming aware of your buttons and noticing that you're not a disturbance. Oh, I skipped ahead. That's what that is. Okay, so becoming aware of your buttons and noticing that you're not the disturbance, but the one who notices the disturbance, right? So I am the noticer. I'm the one that notices the disturbance. And it sounds simple. It's like too simple, right? Mm-hmm. But it is. Our complicated minds want to make it way more difficult than it is. It's just noticing. That's it. And 6, as you sit in the seat of awareness, it grows. There is a flow of energy that you begin to feel from deep inside you. Divine flow, grace, ease, and joy. That is the reality. This is what begins to happen. You become lighter. You experience what you did yesterday, but you're happier about it. You're more okay with it than you were the day before. And every day that goes by, and what happens is one day you go, oh my gosh, I've changed, but I haven't become someone else, I've become more me. Have you had that experience where you're like, oh, I'm more of myself. I'm more me now. How is it even possible to be more us? We're like walking paradoxes, but it's the truth. That's what happens. And so we are committed, right? We're committed to taking out the thorn and not building an apparatus around it. We're just okay with it going away. Okay, so I invite you to pray with me.